So any questions? Yes, good, darling. Talk to me.
Does the cup, the object cup, exist before being designated?
Say it again.
Does the cup exist before being designated as such?
In one sense, of course it is. I mean, if it's your cup and I've never heard of a cup and you're using a cup and you're holding your tea in your cup, of course there's a cup there. But for me, there's no cup until I know the meaning. That's the point. I mean, it's a very direct, personal kind of thing. There's no meaning until we give it meaning. That's why, so there is a prison. Somebody built a prison. Conventionally, there's a prison. Someone built a prison. Someone put the bricks together, the label of it, the government paid for it. It's for people who are naughty. It's completely elaborate and clear. Conventionally, that is a prison. And it's called that, and it functions as that. But if you don't know that, if you're sent to prison, you're just some innocent person picked up off the street and you're homeless and you're given a cell and you're given food every day, you'll be happy. You won't think it's punishment. So it just proves that, even though it is that conventionally, if you label it something else, it is that for you. So that's the meaning. But the point about that is, it doesn't mean that anything can be anything. The key point is that grounds it, is it has to function in the way you label it. So a prison is a very good example. A prison, an ugly place where you're sent when you're naughty and you can't escape from. So it's about the last place you want to choose to live because of that. We give it that meaning conventionally, and that is valid. It is that. That's exactly what it is. But then what we do, the Buddha says, is we don't realize that we then will overstate that existence and make it solid and concrete in the bricks and thing itself. So anyone who gets sent to prison then believes, I have to be miserable because I'm in prison. But that's the point, because they're giving it meaning. They're giving it the conventional meaning is true. It does function in that way, but then we give it more concrete meaning. As Lama Zopa says, delusions decorate on top of what already is there, layers of characteristics that aren't there. So the proof that it isn't that from its own side is if you didn't know it was called prison, you wouldn't necessarily be unhappy. So it's a question of who's in front of the object. You could realize emptiness and know exactly the meaning of a cup, and you know exactly what's going on. But me looking at the same cup, it's a question of what's in my mind. Do you understand?
I understand.
Yeah.
So I have one more question.
Yeah.
The nearly labeled prison, for example.
Yeah.
The nearly labeled I.
Yeah.
Can these be found in ultimate analysis?
Can be found what?
In ultimate analysis.
No, it can't be found in ultimate, even conventional analysis. Of course you can't find it in ultimate analysis. There's no way. That's the point. Absolutely cannot be found in ultimate analysis.
Not the I, but the nearly labeled.
Anything. Oh, the merely label can't be found. Of course you can't find anything. No, of course you can't. You can't find a merely labelled I either. Of course you can't. Of course you can't. Merely labelled I is the name of a phenomenon. So it too is empty of inherent existence. Just the same as any other kind of I. But it does exist conventionally. In the fact that it's the name, that has to be there. Anything you so what we do is we have to posit. What is something? We give it a name and we define it. So there's a thing called a merely labelled I. And we can posit it as existing conventionally. It's a valid statement. There is a merely labelled I. But of course you can't find it ultimately, because it's got the same characteristic as everything else. Absolutely.
So, Ravina, is this the connection between the Heart Sutra?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look into the Heart Sutra. It's very interesting. One of the biggest mistakes we make, as I said before, the Buddha says there are the two truths. There's conventional reality and there's ultimate reality. And in reality, they point to the same thing. They're two ways of describing the same thing. But the way it appears to us is as we have the two extreme views. So when we hear the reality that there is no intrinsic mug, we hear there is no mug and throw the baby out with the bathwater. We hear it as nihilism. And then when we hear there is a conventionally existent dependent arising mug, we overstate it and we concretize it, and then we think, oh, thank God there is something, grasp, and we grasp at a real mug. So we've got these two extreme views and we can't see anywhere in between. And frankly, I think it's a bit like Harry Potter's Platform 9 3/4. I heard about that. I never read the books. You got platform 9 and you got platform 10, and platform 9 3/4 is like is like the middle way, but we can't find it. It's kind of infuriating, It's just a funny example. Because we either think there's something existing or we think there's nothing existing. They're the two extremes, and we don't need to learn this philosophically. Our mind already does that with the view of ego grasping. It's one of its jobs. So we have to recognize that's what delusions do, and they are both extreme views. So philosophically speaking, the view of the soul is the view of the eternalistic view, that there is something there intrinsic and special, you know. And then the view of a creator is the same. That's that view that Buddha's arguing with. And then you've got the view of emptiness, the nihilistic view, that there's nothing, you know. Well, you can argue that the philosophical materialist view is a nihilistic view. There's just a bunch of, it's physical, you live and you die, you know. And there's no, in general, the nihilistic view is there's no cause and effect. You just think what you like, do what you like, and it's like, that is nihilism. That's nihilism, you know. So they're both wrong views, Buddha says. So, and then what we have to learn to do is hear the right words, try to put the correct meaning onto what conventional reality, what dependent arising means. And then we have to understand what emptiness means. And when we begin to understand that they refer to each other, then we are on the right track. So, this is the point, one point. The Heart Sutra says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is nothing other than emptiness, emptiness is nothing other than form. So, okay, that particular statement. So, first of all, the reference to form, that's this, what that is, the Heart Sutra is a list of all the phenomena that the universe is made up of according to the Buddhist worldview. There's just these categories of phenomena. So the first category of phenomena that's mentioned is the 5 aggregates. And that's pointing to a particular teaching of the Buddha's, how he divided up the components of a person into 5 different little kind of heaps of things, you know. So it doesn't matter for the moment what that is, but we're divided into 5 little pieces. So the first one is called form, which is referring to the physicality of us. So that's why that's the first one mentioned, because as it says, we have to repeatedly and continuously understand how each of these things is empty of inherent nature. So the first one, it says, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form is nothing other than emptiness, emptiness is nothing other than form. So this is meant to help us understand that nihilism is not a possibility. So putting it like this, okay. I can't see anybody to talk. I've got a crick neck, you know, to use examples. So, okay. You know, let's say, I haven't got anything. Let's say, where are we? Who are we? Where are we? Let's say Berit. Yes? Let's say she's colourblind. That's the example I use. She's colourblind, right? And every time she sees orange, she sees blue or something, let's just say. So basically that's an invalid cognition. According to conventional reality, we can call this orange. Let's just say it's orange, you know. But her eyes are mistaken. So we can't just bully her into believing it's orange. We want her to cognize the truth. But she's always believed it's blue. She sees blue, she expects blue, she believes it's blue. So what we do is we fix her eyes. It's very simple. So now she's got correct eyes. There's 2 different things I'm trying to prove here. Okay, several points I'm trying to prove. So first of all, so we will assume that now her eyes are fixed and we present orange to her again. We will presume that she will simply see the truth that it's orange, won't we? But she won't, not first. And this is helping us understand the concept of the absence of something. What she will first see, she'll get the shock of her life. What she will go is, oh my God, it's not blue. So the name of the phenomenon her mind cognized is called the absence of blue. Can you hear that? See, this business about the way the mind, when you learn Buddhist philosophy, you learn there are about 5 or 6 different synonyms for that which exists. And this is really important for the Buddha because he wants to get us to see that which exists and stop believing in nonsense. So there's the different words, phenomenon, object, existent, they're nouns. Okay, so the way the mind functions, I think the way to put it is this. They say the mind is like the subject. Lama talks about this in Mahamudra. And then it always has an object. There's always and an object doesn't mean a physical thing. The mind is always, there's always got to be something mind cognizes. There's, you know, whatever level of mind, whether it's sensory or mental, whether it's deluded, not deluded, valid, it's always cognizing something. So what those words refer to is that what exists is what is real. So Buddha wants us to cognize that which exists. So I think the way to say it is the mind always cognizes something as like a thing, a noun, a phenomenon, a noun. So what she will go is, oh my God, it's not blue. In other words, she just discovered the emptiness of blue Marla, didn't she? Like you look in the cup, oh my God, my cup's empty. She just observed the phenomenon called the emptiness of blue. Can you hear that, people? I presume you can. So the phenomenon, first of all, this one point is, we assume that now her eyes are fixed, she'll see the truth. But she won't first. She will see the absence of what she thought was there because she gets a shock. Like, I believed tea was going to come. Oh my God, my cup's no. So what I really observed in that cup is the absence of tea, didn't I? If you look in your bank and you say, oh, where's my dollars? The bank is empty of dollars. What you just observed is the phenomenon called the absence of dollars. Can you hear that? That's a really very vivid phenomenon. Can you hear that? It's in a negating sense, but it's a very real, sound, solid, real thing that does exist. So the absence of blue is a solid, real phenomenon that does exist for Berit. Can you hear that? And that's the way they talk about. It's a phenomenon that you cognize. It's the absence of something. So okay, do we accept that there is orange on this Marla? Do we accept there is a phenomenon called orange? Yeah. So for her, the first thing she observed is the phenomenon called the absence of blue. Do you accept that? The absence of blue, and that exists on this Marla, doesn't it, for her? So if I look in my cup, I will cognize the phenomenon called the absence of tea in my cup, won't I? In my cup, won't I? And it's a real phenomenon. It's a negating one. It sounds abstract, but it's a very real phenomenon that the mind does cognize. The absence of money in the bank, the absence of tea in the cup, the absence of blue on the orange Marla, the absence of in the inherent I. And it's always something you expected to be there. Do you hear the point? That's why it's a negation. It's not something that's real, that's there. You know, if you believe there's an elephant in this room and you walk in, you'll see the absence of an elephant. It's a real phenomenon. So this is the point now. When we hear emptiness, we hear, oh, there's no I. You throw out all the bits and pieces. As His Holiness says, we think it means, well, where's the I in there? There's a knee, chuck out the knee. There's a knee, chuck out all the bits. You have hundreds of bits out there and you end up with nothing left. Oh, there's no I. That's not the meaning of emptiness. So this is a good example. So I'm getting to the form one. But another example, I like this example, is let's say you believe there's $5,000 in your bank. You believe it. Like she believes there's blue here. I believe there's tea there. So when you look in the bank with the expectation of $5,000, what you will observe when the zero appears to you, you won't observe a zero, believe me. You won't go, oh, there's no dollars in my bank. No, you won't. You'll go, oh my God, where's my $5,000? Won't you? So what you've just observed is the phenomenon, the existent, the object of knowledge called absence of $5,000. Can you hear that? It's a very real phenomenon for you, isn't it? Now let's say you ask me to look in the bank. And there is, in fact, zero there. So zero here is an analogy for nihilism. There's nothing, for nothingness, right? I will see the truth, that there's nothing there, won't I? But what will you see? So the object for you that you will cognize is the absence of $5,000. The object that I will cognize is $0. Can you hear how they're two different phenomena? So that means the absence of an inherent I is like the absence of $5,000. It's not, there's no I. That's nihilism. So the point is this. Wherever there is an orange Marla, for Berit, there is the absence of a blue Marla. Do you agree with that? And wherever there is the absence of a blue Marla, there is the presence of an orange Marla. Do you get that? So then it can't be nihilism. So form is emptiness, meaning it's not really emptiness, but it means wherever there is form, in this case physical, there is existing the emptiness of inherent form. And wherever there is the existence of inherent form, there is conventional form. So it can never be there is no form. So wherever there is I, conventional I, there is existing right there the absence or the emptiness of intrinsic I. And wherever you will find the emptiness of intrinsic I is right here on the conventional I. So it can never be there is no I. Because you've got to posit a conventional I in the first place in order to discover in that conventional I the absence of an intrinsic I. So it can't be nihilism. That's what it's proving. Does that sound reasonable? Yeah. So it's not that there's no money. Oh, there's no I. You chuck out all the bits and there's no I, that's saying there's no dollars. No, you will find the absence of an intrinsic I, and that's a very rich, delicious phenomenon to cognize. And in the same way, in this conventional ordinary analogy here, she first recognizes the absence of the blue mala. Then she will see the conventional truth, orange mala. So it's exactly the same here. Once you realize the absence of the intrinsic I, you will then realize the conventional truth, the merely labeled I. That's the final one you realize. Then you realize reality. So as His Holiness said in one of his books, he said, the I isn't empty of intrinsic nature because you can't find it, and you can't. No, that's not the real premise. The I is empty of intrinsic nature because it's a dependent arising. So it's never nihilism. That's the two truths together. Then we can never fall into the abyss of the great mistake, Tsongkhapa says. So it's just getting your head around the idea of a phenomenon called the absence of something. It sounds abstract, but once you analyze it, we'll understand it. You know, and we're doing it all our lives. If I'm always lonely, I'm always noticing the absence of what I think should be there, isn't it? You can make up as many absences as you like. You know, if you're always miserable, you're noticing there's not enough money and there's not enough people, there's not enough food. You're just endlessly noticing the absence of things. Okay, they're not happy absences, but the concept we understand of the absence of something. Here, it's a delightful absence to discover, like discovering you haven't got cancer. Then you rejoice. So we've lived our lives for eternity, Buddha says, on the assumption of a real independent I, which is what causes us to have attachment and aversion and the other delusions, which is what causes us to create negative karma, which is what causes us to get bodies and universes. This is very abstract, that creates universes. That's very fascinating, but that's what Buddha's saying. Everything is made by the mind. From hell realms to enlightenment. So it's up to us to create joy and bliss and freedom from suffering. Because you can't have the emptiness of intrinsic something unless you've got a something. So it can't be nihilism. You can't have the absence of dollars without a bloody bank account. Oh, our nihilism for us is, oh, there's no dollars. Where is there no dollars? Oh, there's just no dollars. It's going to be ridiculous. There's no dollars in the bank account. Where is there no I? Oh, there's no I. In here, right here, on this self, there is the absence of an intrinsic self. Right here. If I think $5 is in my pocket, and I put my hand in, I'll go, oh, what did I just discover? The absence of $5. Where does the absence of $5 exist? In my pocket. Not just, oh, there's no $5. That's nihilism, it's nonsense. These are just words. As Lama says, my words are just words. You know, I've got to have the experience of it in meditation. So let me read you a bit from Lama before we have dinner. Lama's very delicious. He had this capacity from day one, from meeting Westerners. He knew, it was like he was born a Westerner. When you hear Tibetans, they really are medieval in the way they construct things. It's just their culture. But you hear Lama Zopa, Lama Yeshe, he was amazing. He just, when I edit him, I've never failed to be astonished. The way he chose words, so delicious. I don't know where he got them from, believe me. He was astonishing. Everything's very slow. Okay. That's very good. Okay, Mahamudra. How to discover our true nature. Okay, this is Lama talking about from the point of view of emptiness, from the point of view of merely labelled. So it's very tasty, you'll see. We're just a name. The great 2nd century Indian scholar Nagarjuna describes the way we exist. The combination of our 5 aggregates, our form, feeling, discrimination, non-associated compounded phenomena and consciousness, is given a name. The name is a label which comes from a concept. That's it. That is the reality, conventional reality, no more. But the characteristic of ego mind, and that's Lama's term for ego grasping, the root delusion, is that it's always dissatisfied with that reality. And this ego mind, perhaps we should better call it ego wisdom, because in a sense ego is so intelligent, so skillful, completely knocks out our reality. We can also say we're a combination of the 6 elements, the usual 4 plus consciousness and space. To those elements, a name is given. The name comes from the mind. The mind looks at this combination, then gives it a name, a label, and this is the conventional reality. It doesn't matter how important we hold it to be. The way it exists is no more than that. I mean it, no more. The text quotes Nagarjuna. The text is Panchen, the 17th century Panchen Lama's text on Mahamudra that Lama is giving a commentary on. The individual is not earth, is not water, is not fire, is not wind, is not space, is not awareness, is not all of these. Yet what individual is there other than these? In other words, if we go looking for something more among each of the 6 elements, no way can we find anything there either. In Buddha's terminology, this is the meaning of conventional. In itself, a phenomenon is not absolute. And Lama uses the word absolute actually in different ways. He uses it in a way where things don't exist, and also he uses it in a way to mean inherent. But the ego holds things as absolute. Ego wants absolute me. We hold on to an absolute I, which is totally non-existent. There is no absolute I, nor are there absolute 6 elements, absolute 5 aggregates. There are none, scientifically. When we understand this, we see that if something were existing from itself, it couldn't change. Nothing exists like that. Ego wants. When it's summertime and it's 100 degrees, the ego wants absolute reality Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola becomes the absolute solution. This view is totally wrong. It's exaggeration. Coca-Cola does have a relative, conventional, artificial quality, but how can we say it is absolute? When the ego mind cognizes something, there is no room to accept it as it is. Ego mind has to go beyond the relative way that the thing exists. For this reason, Buddhism emphasizes understanding interdependence or dependent arising as the logic to prove non-duality, non-self-existence. There are all these synonyms, okay, for how things don't exist. Non-self-existent. Ego grasping believes there's a self-existent me, an inherent me, an intrinsic me, a me from its own side, a me in and of itself. All these are synonyms. And the Buddha is saying that kind of me doesn't exist. An independent me, none of these types exist. So take Scott, for example. We give the name Scott to the group of 6 elements sitting here. There is this combination here, and then we say the name Scott. 3 things are involved in this process: your mind, the name, and the conventional reality of Scott's 6 elements. Okay, there must be some reason we say Scott. There is some reason, always is some reason, but that reason is superficial. There is no absolute quality at all. There is no absolute phenomenon there. Something just occurred, like some wind coming. Scott is coming. All there is, what Scott is just some interdependent phenomenon linked with the thought. Our superstitious conceptual thought says the word Scott. All this is just a bubble, so interdependent. There is this combination, these parts, and then we give a name to them. That's all. We cannot go further than that. This is the ultimate understanding. The parts one is not the main mistake, but it's a really delicious one to look at. This is the final understanding. We cannot say Scott is special, but we are looking for more than that, something objectively existing. Our ego is not satisfied, especially if we're attracted to Scott and we project a quality of handsomeness onto him. Our ego tries to project handsomeness onto him almost beyond his capacity. When we go beyond the interdependent, conventional level, then it becomes absolute. But it's a false absolute, isn't it? Maybe today we can hold that projection, but tomorrow it disappears. And then from his side, his own ego's side, he also doesn't want to accept himself as the conventional, superficial level, as an interdependent phenomenon. His ego also goes beyond the conventional reality of himself. His ego is also holding such a concept of handsome, which is absolute for him. He puts that label onto parts of himself. Sometimes he puts it on his eyes, sometimes on his nose, sometimes his mouth, sometimes his neck, perhaps his navel chakra. He tries, but no way. It's like he's forcing extra things onto himself. This is the whole way that Buddha's saying, and as Lama Zopa puts it, all the delusions, including ego grasping, but attachment and jealousy and all the branch delusions, their key function is to embellish. They exaggerate. As Lama Zopa says, they decorate on top of what is there, layers upon layers of characteristics that just aren't there. So really learning to see reality for the Buddha is a process of deconstruction, removing the layers of lies. As we keep doing that, we eventually get to the root of discovering reality, which is the emptiness of intrinsic nature. You get rid of all the embellishments. That's really one way of describing the process. In other words, what I'm saying is, he holds such an absolute, unchangeable, unconventional, unsuperficial view. He feels, this is my reality. Scott does not exist in any of the elements of his body, any of the parts of his mind. It's like a car before it's assembled in the factory. It's just a bunch of things, right? It's not a car then. That combination of parts is not the car. It's the same with Scott. The combination of Scott's parts is not him. Now, if we put Scott in front of a mirror, there are two things, right? The reflection of Scott in the mirror and Scott in front of it. So in our judgment, we think Scott is the true one. The one in the mirror is just a reflection. It's not Scott. But from the point of view of the great yogis Nagarjuna and Lama Tsongkhapa, within both of these spheres, the body of Scott and the reflection of Scott, there is no Scott existing. The reflection is not him, and neither is the bubble of his elements. Both equally are not him. It's not, the combination of parts is Scott and the reflection is not. Normally we think this. But realistically, if you try to find Scott within these two spheres, you cannot. No way. Scott comes from the name, the label. That is why he is existing. Other people's concepts produce the artificial name, the label. Then Scott exists. So what it means, it exists for you. Don't think it means suddenly there's no physical thing in front of you, and then boom, you say Scott, and then he appears. That's clearly absurd. There is a basis there to be labelled. And if you already know emptiness, you'll understand this. There's still a person there who functions as Scott. But that's the thing, we've got to put these two truths together. Instead of thinking, well, there is a Scott. Well, there's not a Scott. Which one? Make up your mind, please. We can't hear the two, you know. Scott comes from the name, the label. That is why he's existing. You know, for this reason, all conventional reality is produced by the superstitious mind. For this reason, Scott is not earth, Scott is not water, Scott is not fire, Scott is not consciousness, Scott is not space. Between the elements and the name, the superficial view, that is the only existing Scott. We cannot go further. All there is the totality of Scott, the non-existence of Scott, the Mahamudra of Scott. But we want to go beyond the name, don't we? The conclusion is, each of the elements individually is not Scott, and the group of them, the combination, is not Scott. Becoming Scott depends on the label, the name, being given to the elements. This connection between the name and the elements is the way that Scott exists. The operation of these is Scott. When we non-conceptualize in meditation our experience of Scott, our mind reaches beyond the conventions of Scott. If we stay there a while contemplating, and then after our session we open up to his atmosphere, his elements, he'll seem like a mirage. Is he there or not? Is he real or not? Somehow there is some vibration there, but it's not absolute. In other words, the absolute Scott disappears. When we are seeing with the ego, we always feel that Scott is absolute, which is totally wrong. It's because we have not tasted the non-duality of Scott. Here we talk about Scott. I use him as an example, but it's the same for each of us. We feel, I'm so solid, I am this, I am that. We believe, I'm the important one. We hold a dualistic view of our own self. Our responsibility is to observe this view, the way ego mind grasps the I as self-existent. Do I exist as I believe or not? We have to check that out. We really feel that somewhere within our body or mind, I'm here. This is a totally wrong conception. It means that we do not recognize how things operate conventionally, how they exist interdependently. We can't accept it. We feel that we have some absolute reality. So during Mahamudra meditation, we're not trying to destroy the conventional view of I. Anyway, this is not the problem. The great yogi, the enlightened one Tilopa, said to his disciple Naropa, "My son, you are not bound by awareness itself. You are kept in bondage by your concepts. They have such a tight hold." In other words, the reflection of phenomena appearing in my mind is not itself the problem. The problem is that we stimulate the mind, we shake the mind with the dualistic opinions. You are this and you are that. So we need to learn to not judge with such artificial concepts. This is good, that is bad. You understand? We need to eliminate this kind of thinking and to broaden our view of reality. I want you to understand that the conventional I exists only for the conventional mind, a valid conventional mind. But ego mind feels that there is an I here that isn't dependent, that exists without depending on any other phenomenon, that is solid. That is ego's concept. Conventional relative Coca-Cola operates only for the relative mind. It is not possible for Coca-Cola to become absolute. It is a combination of elements gathered together. Then we give it a name. Then it becomes Coca-Cola. It's the same with ourselves. What we call I am this, I am that, is only the connection between the name and the elements. That's the only way we exist. Because of our superstitions, our delusions, we create the fantasy of conventional existence. But the ego mind doesn't want to accept this. It wants to make it absolute, but it's not possible. The problem is, as long as we hold the concept that our self exists objectively within the five aggregates, that such an I is existing from itself, without depending on anything, then we do not touch reality. We either overestimate or we underestimate. That's the two extreme views. We either overstate there's something or we understate. We don't get the right one, you know. So the unique skill of this Mahamudra meditation technique is that it banishes these conceptions. Seeing things as absolute in this way, holding the concept of an independent I, is not an intellectually created idea of ego, philosophically made up. We could supplement one philosophical view about ego for another, but this will not solve our problem. We need to knock out the intuitive ego, the simultaneously born ego, the inborn ego. It is because it is so instinctive that it is so difficult to catch its projections. For this reason, we need a clean, clear state of consciousness gained first from concentrating on the clarity of our mind. Then we can cut the superstitious thoughts, go beyond ego, and discover Mahamudra, which means realize emptiness. So we mightn't understand the words, but it's very tasty, isn't it? It's kind of delicious, right? Isn't it? One day we'll understand. Okay, time for dinner now, isn't it? What is it? No, not yet. Oh, only 18:06. Okay. The real thinking we have to do is independent arising. You don't think about emptiness. I is empty, there's no I. That's ridiculous. What it is, one way you could say is, you know, there are these various logical arguments, like dependent arising is the king of logics, as Lama Yeshe puts it, as Tsongkhapa says. So what your mind does is think about how things exist interdependently in terms of causes, parts, or merely labeled. So that's the thinking your mind does, and what that does is trigger the insight. Oh, I see. Therefore, there is no I existing from its own side. So emptiness, if you like, is the conclusion that you come to from doing the analysis. So you think about dependent arising, and that concludes, I see. Therefore, there is no independent I. That's at the conceptual level. So this approach in here, Mahamudra, it sounds easy in a way because it's just merely to meditate. As Lama says, there's no philosophy, no God, no Buddha, no dogma, no this, no that. You just meditate. So really it's very interesting. As Tsongkhapa says, there's two main ways of realizing emptiness. One is the approach we're taking here, which is you do the analysis, the logic first, you contemplate it, and then the more concentration you have, the subtler your analysis, therefore the easier to trigger an insight into the emptiness of the intrinsic I. And then you hold that in your meditation. That's the classic approach, and how Lama learned in the monastery. Then you have this other approach, which is this text by Panchen Lama, which is that you simply learn to watch your mind, focus your mind, and then when your mind is stable, you go to the second mode of meditation in order to get an insight of how the I exists. So it's just in meditation. So in a way this seems simpler, but it's actually more advanced. And depends on the kind of mind of a person, you know. It's a bit like, you know, we all know that if you want to learn to play Bach, you have to learn a lot of theory first. My goodness. You know, but this Mahamudra approach is really more advanced. It's a person who is able to simply go to the piano and intuit Bach. That's advanced. I mean, that's just not on. Nobody could do that unless you've got massive experience from the past. The logical way we all learn everything is you learn the theories first, you memorize them, and then you start to play the piano, and you gradually get the experience of the music. It's the same here with emptiness. But this Mahamudra way, like, cuts to the chase. It sounds easy, and people get very excited, you know. Or Dzogchen, you've heard about Dzogchen. It's another variation of it, really. And I heard about one Lama in Italy who taught Dzogchen for years, and then he said he had to give up in the end and start teaching the ordinary stuff because no one could do it properly. So it's really more advanced. It seems easier to just sit down to meditate. But the point is also this. You know, unless you've got a lot of practice in the past, a lot of merit, you'd say, a lot of past experience in a past life even, you can't just leap into these kind of things. Because many people want to meditate, and then because the mind is so powerful, is so remarkable, has got eons of, our unconscious, according to Jung, is nothing in comparison to the unconscious Buddha would talk about. You're bringing countless lives of stuff, and we're lugging it around with us. What's amazing about the Buddha's view of the mind, there is nothing we have ever experienced that has ever gone astray. Everything we have ever experienced since beginningless time is stored in our mind as memories. Now this is, even to think of just this life, that's mind-boggling. That's the nature of the mind, it's how it works. As Lama Zopa put it, we're shooting, Geshe Tashi in London said it's like we're shooting a movie all day and just store them in your memory. As Lama Zopa says, it's like you're taking photos all day and they're imprinted in your mind. That's why you can have clairvoyance. That's why we have any memory at all. So our mind is massive. So if you have no idea what your mind is, you've never heard of a delusion, you don't know what concentration is, you don't know what virtue is, you've done no practice, and you sit down to meditate, many people, as Lama Yeshe put it, they end up in the psychiatric hospital. And the number of people you meet who go potty trying to meditate, thinking, oh, I can just meditate, look at my mind, you know, wow, far out, amazing. You've no idea what you're doing. Venerable Rene, one of our monks who's, you know, meditating seriously for like 40 years, when I interviewed him in 1995 in Mandalay about his 2.5-year retreat, concentration meditation, shamatha, you know, 2.5 years. Concentration technique is, you know, described in terms of 9 stages of cultivation. So he said he maybe touched upon the 5th of the 9 stages in that meditation retreat. So he said there's no way he felt he was qualified to go into that retreat unless he'd been a monk, lived in vows, done lots of purification, lots of practice, heard many teachings, and even given teachings himself. In other words, that was the way he prepared his mind. You can't just leap into it. Now, if you've got karma from the past, then you can. It depends. Many people go straight into meditation. So that has to prove that they've got some experience in the past. And that's the Buddhist view. It's like, you know, you read about these days, you go on YouTube and you see these 6-year-old children playing Bach. You can't believe your eyes, you know. I heard about a 7-year-old American girl writing orchestral pieces for 60-piece orchestras. So clearly, karma's the only reincarnation, to me, is the only logical proof. She's got the music already in her, so she can just leap into it again. So if anybody can sit down in this life, and you hear of some people who do that, with no teachings, no philosophy, they just sit down to meditate. That's the Zen approach. that clear that person must have had some experience in the past. They have to have. If you get some realizations from it, you have to have. But we tend to mystify it, you know. Oh, well, you just kind of cross your fingers and sit down. There's got to be some work in the past. There has to be. You couldn't do it possibly. Those children could not sit and write music with 60-piece orchestras if they haven't got the music in their minds. It's so obvious, you know. The same with meditation. So it depends on where you're at. And it depends on your mind. I mean, even the Tibetan Buddhist traditions, there are 4 main traditions. And there's one of them called the Kargyupas. And the sort of the cliched understanding of the Kargyupas is that they go straight to meditation and straight to practice. They don't do much philosophy. And the cliched view of the Gelugpas, as Lama Yeshe says, everybody thinks we squeeze our brains. We do the intellectual one first, you know. But they're all in both. I mean, Mahamudra is the classic one if you go straight to the experience, straight to the practice. So you've got to be, at different times we need both. We've got to have both. And if you want to teach somebody, you have to have the words. You might get great experiences in meditation, but if you don't know the words, how can you teach somebody else? That's really selfish. I'm very happy for you. Oh, it's just beyond words, people say. Well, excuse me, don't be so rude. Keep your experiences to yourself. If you can't express the words, that's why the power of speech is so important. You know, Lama Yeshe's a great meditator, but he's got the words to express them to us so we can get the taste as well. So we've got to do both. We've got to be experiential and we've got to be theoretical. But this approach in Mahamudra is very specifically no theory. You just go to you do the concentration on the nature of your mind. When the mind is steady, you then go to the second mode, and I'll read about that later. You know, I might even start now because we're here. We've still got time. What time is it? Yeah, we've got 15 minutes. Okay. So there's 2 modes of meditation, and all Mahamudra is utilizing those 2 modes. The first one is concentration. The object you're using is your own mind itself. And the actual object you eventually get to is called the conventional nature of your mind, which is its clarity. So as Lama says, you start with just whatever thoughts pop up, and eventually your mind will steady and you begin to taste the clarity of your mind. Whatever that, even though that word is not even what we mean clarity, it's not even meaning what it means, it's not even that easy, you know. As His Holiness said when he was in his commentary on this text, it's easy to say these words, but to really begin to get an experience of your mind is not that easy. It's quite abstract, quite hard for us. So anyway, when your mind is steady, you now go to the second mode while you continue to focus on the mind, but another part of your mind, and this is how he describes it, it's very sweet. Chapter 9, now seek the self and find Mahamudra. So having become familiar with contemplating the clarity of our mind, we can now move to investigate the wrong view of ego, how the ego perceives, so that we can realize Mahamudra, our ultimate nature. Mahamudra here is virtually a synonym for emptiness. It's just this term that got developed over the centuries for this particular practice, which initially was kept secret. In order to experience Mahamudra, we need to destroy ego's conception, the hallucinated idealistic picture, the concrete view, this is me. So let's investigate this mistaken concept, because if we can't recognize how ego mind projects its hallucination onto reality, our Mahamudra meditation will become Mickey Mouse meditation. It is very difficult to recognize the self-entity that ego is holding. That is why we first calm down the grosser levels of mind in concentration meditation. Without this concentration, there is no way we can identify the unconscious levels of ego holding the independent self, and therefore no way we can realize Mahamudra. Normally our sense of self is just a vague notion, and our ordinary superficial mind never attempts to pinpoint it. So we must investigate deeply and try to identify exactly how we think this fantasy I exists. This is the point that I said before. You can't begin to work out if there is an I or not if you don't know what you're looking for. And this is what this part is about. So Lama Tsongkhapa says that if you're afraid of a snake, but someone tells you there's no elephant there, what good is that? Your problem is a snake. So we must identify the problem exactly. We have to make sure we understand clear how ego holds its nonsense. So now let's meditate on Mahamudra. First, achieve a level of concentration that you're satisfied with, focusing on the clarity of your consciousness. This is not something I can pinpoint for you, saying it's exactly this or that. Perhaps we could say it's when you've had a couple of minutes without emotional distraction. Actually, that would be super. And be satisfied with that. Don't think, oh, only 2 minutes. I should be able to concentrate for 24 hours. Don't grasp, otherwise you'll lose everything. Then, from this clean, clear state and without distraction, move to investigate the opposite of Mahamudra wisdom, the intuitive ego, our so-called simultaneously born ego. In his root text, the Panchen Lama says that you have to be like a fish moving through water without disturbing it. So the main meditation then is strong concentration on your mind. You never vary from that. You stay there. That's me saying the last bit. So while you're doing this, your subtle analytical wisdom, and Lama so sweetly, he calls it your mindfulness fish. And use that throughout the book. Your mindfulness fish. Watches intently, ready to capture the way ego mind perceives the self-existent I and simultaneously comprehend the non-self-existent I. Do not think that because you're attempting to concentrate on the mind, you can't at the same time have another part of your mind be aware, be watching. For example, as you sit meditating, you still notice the sounds of the breathing of others, the movement in the room, but you don't get distracted, do you? This is natural. So in the Tibetan text, they use the example of two people having a conversation while they're going for a walk. A long way to go, baby. Lama always said these funny things. There is awareness of the road, but they're not watching the road, not thinking that it's a good road or a bad road. And don't think that the mindfulness fish is separate, like a separate thought. It's not. Yes, one part of your mind just keeps going, concentrating on the clarity, while another part, the mindfulness fish, watches intently. They do have different functions. Initially, you experience them as separate, but as you learn to let go, you will experience them as unified, just as the rays from a light that shines on everything are part of the light. So your thoughts are part of the consciousness that oversees everything. What might happen is that the appearance of ego will come, but you'll miss it. It's like a thief who sneaks up when you're not looking and then hides when you turn around. If you try too hard to find him, he disappears. This is exactly how ego mind deceives us. It's so sneaky, so intelligent. Instead of building up the strength of the ego, build up the strength of the mindfulness fish to catch the ego. Ego mind is saying, self-existent I, self-existent I. But your subtle wisdom is trying to recognize non-self-existent I, non-self-existent I. So the meditation is basically focusing on your mind. When your mind is clear, you kind of have a part of your mind, the mindfulness fish, this subtle wisdom, as they call it, just watching like a hawk, observing in your mind how the I rises, how the I appears. And this, in a way, is what we're trying to do every day. We bring this into daily life. If you're really trying to do this, firstly, when we talked about the high school level, where you're looking at the regular delusions, attachment and aversion, that's what we have to be doing, watching our mind like a hawk, identifying what's going on, what story is talking, which delusion is talking in this big mess in here. And when we've done that work and controlled our body and speech in junior school, that's what prepares us to do this work at a subtle level. And really this more subtle level of observing, attempting to catch the way this nonsense I seems to exist for us. That's the meditation, you know. So clearly the more concentration you have, the more subtle your wisdom and the easier to catch the non-self-existent, to catch what you think the I is and then to realize how it doesn't exist. That'll do for now. Okay. Any questions before we have dinner? Okay. So let's get ready for dinner. So let's think of dinner also being merely labelled. It's really clear. I mean, it's really clear, you know. We have all these stories in our mind. We're so full of these stories already there, expecting, you know, tea, soup, whatever it is. We give it the name, and then we forget we label it. And then we give it all, and then we think the meaning is coming from the food. Like the child who draws the lion and then becomes afraid of it. That's how we create samsara. And so we'll add to that compassion. All these kind people working for us, attempting to, you know, to identify what we Western people like to eat. They try so hard to give us what we like, you know. They know we like popcorn, so we get popcorn with our soup. How kind. We know we like cheese sandwiches, so we get a cheese and tomato sandwich. How kind. They're so kind. They work so hard. We have to see that. So we're so grateful to them for feeding us, looking after us, giving us the best they can. And we'll be so happy that we're here doing this and then supporting this place, helping Rinpoche build his 2-story Guru Rinpoche Pure Land. I asked when I saw him recently, I said, where are you going to build it? He said, he kind of laughed. He said, above the cave, you know. I said, where else it would be? Of course it's going to be above the cave. Guru Rinpoche's Pure Land. Where they stored the radishes. He said that Guru Rinpoche gave it to him. The previous Lama said that. Anyway, so good. So we dedicate what we've done so far today, all these thoughts we've had, all these things we've thought about, these discussions we've had, the meditation and prayers we've done this morning, all these seeds we've planted, how fantastic. And then we just dedicate, meaning these seeds we've planted, may we continue to nourish them so that when they do develop into the development of our amazing potential, just like we motivated, then we really will be able to help. It really will be for others. We really will be able to help others. How fantastic. Gewadi. Open your book. We do them in Tibetan sometimes, then there's the 5 prayers in English, so they're similar. So we'll just sing them in Tibetan this time. Let's see where they are. Must be somewhere in Tibetan, I can't remember. 63 in Tibetan, are there? Because of the 5 prayers, that's just in English. Oh, no, I don't think so. Well, then let's have a look. No, they're different prayers. That's the food offering prayer. So I don't know if we've got it here in here. Let's see. Too complicated, too far. Let's dedicate. I'll just. No, which one? 158. I don't know. Let's have a look. That's the 5 essential prayers in English. So we'll just do them in English. Never mind, we'll do them in English and then we'll sing the prayer for the food. It's good to do that. So 158. As a result of the 3 times merits of myself and others, may bodhicitta, from which the happiness of all sentient beings comes, be generated in the minds of myself and other sentient beings without delay, even for 1 second, and that which has been generated, may it increase. As a result of the 3 times merits of myself and others, may emptiness be generated in the minds of myself and other sentient beings without delay, even for 1 second, and that which has been generated, may it increase. As a result of the 3 times merits of myself and others, which are empty from their own side, may I, who am empty from my own side, achieve Guru Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment, which is empty from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are empty from their own side to that enlightenment, which is empty from its own side, as quickly as possible, by myself alone. Whatever dedication the victorious ones gone to bliss of the 3 times have admired as best, I shall also perfectly dedicate in the same way all these roots of virtue, so that I may perform good works. Because of the past, present, and future merit created by me and by the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and sentient beings, may I, my family, students, and all sentient beings be able to actualize completely in this very lifetime Lama Tsongkhapa's path of unified sutra and tantra, which is pure like refined gold. And may this pure teaching of Lama Tsongkhapa spread in all directions and flourish forever. Okay, so just think of the food as delicious nectar, big as the universe. We offer it to all the beings in the universe. They all experience the bliss of receiving it. And then we enjoy it. And as Lama Zopa says, once you've blessed the food and thought about it that way, the bigger your stomach, the better. So enjoy. All right. So I think we come back here at 7:30 in our cold, freezing gompa and have more hard chips while we create some merit. All right? A little meditation. Would you like to lead a little meditation tonight? A short 20 minutes on the mind. Just real short. 20 minutes is enough, and that's long. And do it exactly as you like. And I don't need to be here if you don't want me to be here. Will you be embarrassed me if I'm here? Okay, I'll come then. And you can be the boss. All right, 20 minutes tonight, just short. Okay?